Hi, this is Mrs. Robertson, and today it is September 25th. We are going to go over our bell work, and then later I will have another video for you when we go over our review for the test. We do have a test coming up this week, and I want to make sure everyone knows how to do their problems. Today this recording is coming to you from my second period math class. Say hi. Hi. All right, so let's begin. How do you multiply with mixed numbers? You multiply, add, and put it on top. You start with a 2, which is the denominator. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 7 is your new numerator, and 2 stays as the denominator. Then we do the same thing to the next number. 3 times 1 is 3, plus the numerator of 1 gives you 4/3. Now, you do not have to simplify before you multiply on the test. This step over here shows you how to do that. We're just going to multiply straight across because that's what the answer will be on the test, and you can still simplify it and get credit. But what do? You multiply straight across. You get 28. 2 times 3 is 6. 28 over 6 would be a fine answer. Now, if you wanted to change it to a mixed number, you would divide. How many 6's are in a 28? 4. That's 24. Subtract, and you have 4 left. That would be an answer, and I know some of you would have had 4 2/3 as an answer. But 28/6 will be fine. Now let's go to problem number 2. In problem number 2, you change it to an improper fraction. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20. Now, on your quizzes last week, a lot of you didn't do this, and you didn't do your very best on it then. So I want to make sure you do a good job on this one, kids. Everyone okay now? Are we focused? Can we go on? Okay. 20 times 1 is 20, and 3 times 12 is 36. That would be a fine answer. Some of you might have simplified before you multiplied because you know 4 will divide 20 and 4 divides 36. It would give you the answer 5/9. Both of those would be correct answers. Now let's do number 3. In problem number 3, you change them to improper fractions. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9, so you'll write down 9/2. Times, that one's not an improper fraction, it's a normal fraction. Now, if you just multiply straight across, you're going to get 18 over 6. Some of you probably would simplify. You have a 2 on the bottom and a 2 on top. There's a numerator 2 and a denominator. They turn into 1s, and you might have had 9/3. That's the same thing as 18/6. It's just another name. And what will 9/3 simplify to? Yes, 3. Yeah, 18 over 6 also simplifies to 3. Now let's do number 4. In problem number 4, 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Times, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. Now you could multiply straight across. 7 times 5, put down a 5 carry, is 105 over 10. That would be counted right. Some of you would simplify before you multiply and say, hey, 5 divides 5 once, 5 divides 15 3 times, and you end up with 21 over 2, which equals 10.5. Which if you simplified this one, you get 10 5/10, and that also equals 10.5. But if you have 105 over 10, that would be fine. You don't have to simplify on your test. Number 5. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. You have 13 over 6. What do you do with the whole number? How do I make it a fraction? What do? Yes. You pick it up and put a 1 underneath it. Now you multiply straight across. 4 times 13 is 52 over 6. That is a fine answer. Some of you might have said 6 goes into 52 8 times, and you have 4/6. That is a fine answer. And some of you know, what will 4/6 simplify to? 2/3. 2/3. 2 divides 4 and 2 divides 6. All right. Any questions? Does everyone have 28 over 6? Or 20 over 36? These would be fine answers, but I personally like the simplified answers the best. Everyone good on how to multiply with mixed numbers? Tomorrow, I do not want to see anyone taking 3 times 1 and 1/2 times 1/3, which is what they did on the quiz. No, 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 no. We're going to redo that quick check again tomorrow, and I expect to have good scores. All right, now let's do the next group. Here we do the keep, change, flip after you change them to improper fractions. So let's begin. Gently pick the 4 up and put a 1 underneath it. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. Now, on the next piece, you keep 4 over 1, change the sign, and do the reciprocal of 10/3, which is 3/10. Okay, now you multiply straight across. 4 times 3 is 12, 1 times 10 is 10. 12/10 is a fine answer, but some of you would simplify it. What will that simplify to? Yes. 1 and 2/10, and 2/10 will simplify, so what's another answer for that? Yes. 1 and 1/5. Very nice. Okay, let's go on to number 2. In problem number 2, you multiply, add, and put it on top. That gives you 5/2 divided by 10 over 1. Now, you're going to keep, change the sign, and do the reciprocal. Now, when you multiply across, 5 times 1 is 5, 2 times 10 is 20. What would that simplify to? Does anyone have that one simplified? 5 will divide 5 and 5 will divide 20. So what would that simplify to, Reese? 1/4 is also a fine answer. All right, let's do our last 3 problems down here on today's bell work. The back side, save it. That'll be tomorrow's bell work. All right, so we have 6 over 35 divided by 14 plus 1 is 15/7. We're going to keep 6 over 35, change the sign, and flip. All right, now you can multiply straight across. 7 times 6 is 42, and 15 times 35. I don't like to multiply by big numbers, but we'll just 5 times 5 is 25. Carry a 2, 15, 17. Place value 0. 525, that would be a fine answer. However, I would simplify before I multiply. I would say 7 divides 7 and 7 divides 35, right? 7 divides 7 once. 7 goes into 35 5 times. A lot easier. Oh, do you know a number that divides 6 and 15? 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And I will get the answer 2 over 25, which this will equal that. They will simplify. Number 4. This will be 20 over 3 divided by 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 2 is 20 thirds. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. Now you keep, change the sign to multiplication, and the reciprocal of 8/3 is 3/8. Now, I know most of you would simplify this one before you go on, but in case you didn't, 60 over 24 is a fine answer. But a lot of you say, oh, I have a 3 on bottom and a 3 on top, and then you would just get 20 over 8, and then you could say that equals 2 and 4/8. What will 2 and 4/8 simplify to? Yes, 2 and 1/2. But again, 60 over 24 still will give you all your points. Last bell work problem, then I'll put this on pause. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 is 30. 14 times 1 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Now we're going to keep, change the sign, and do the reciprocal, or flip that one. All right. If you didn't simplify, you would get 14 times 30 is 420 on top, and 7 times 15, that will give you 105. That is a fine answer, but I'm going to show you how you can make it much easier. Look at the corner. What will divide 7 and what will divide 14? 7 will. 7 divides 7 once, and 7 divides 14 2 times. Ooh, look at this corner. 15 and 30. Is there a number that will divide 15 and 30? Well, 15. Yeah, 15 divided by 15 is 1. 30 divided by 15 is 2. And you end up with the answer of 4. And if you take 420 divided by 5, you would get 4. All right, let's put this paper away. And I'm going to go give you the practice paper that we're going to do, and I'll give you the answers to it at the end of class. All right. At this time, we can put this on pause because you're going to get a review worksheet. It's going to be called Unit 2, Part A, Study Guide number 1. After everyone gets the Unit 2, Part A, Study Guide number 1, you can unpause this video, and then we will go over the problems. So, here we are going to do that at this time. All right, we are back now, and everyone should have this worksheet. We're going to go over how to do this worksheet. We will have 2 more of these worksheets before you take the test, so you will be familiar with the format and how to answer the questions a specific way. All right, number 1. First of all, make sure you put your name and the class period on there so you know it's your paper if it gets lost. In problem number 1, it says Savannah is making 4 hair ribbons for her friends. Each ribbon needs 2.5 yards of ribbon. How many yards of material should she buy? Well, first I'm going to do this part here. I'm going to write an equation to represent the problem. An equation has an equal sign, so make sure you put an equal sign in it. And the variable could be, some of you might have put R for ribbon. You could have any variable that you want there. You could have also said 2.5 times 4, and I would count that right too. Any questions on what your equation is? Now let's solve it. We have to change 4 to an improper fraction, so that's going to be 4 over 1 times 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 over 2. The answer, 4 times 5 is 20. 1 times 2 is 2. You could say 20 over 2 yards. But what's a better answer than 20 over 2 yards? Yes, 10 yards. Both of those would be correct because it didn't say you had to simplify. However, I do like 10 yards the best. Are there any questions on how to do problem number 1? Let's do problem number 2. How much of a pie will each person get if 5 people share 1/2 of the pie equally? So we're not sharing a full pie, it's a half of a pie. So a half divided by 5 equals n. In your mind, you should get a visual of this, and you just have the visual will be you only have a half of a pie, and 5 people are going to share it. So let's do the problem and see what we end up getting. You have 1/2 times, or divided by 5/1. Well, we know when you divide, you do keep, change, flip. That will be 1/2 times 1/5. So each person will get 1/10 of the pie. It equals 1/10 of the pie. Now, if you think about that, you take a half and you're going to cut it up into 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, if you had the whole pie, that means you've got it cut up into 10 pieces, right? So each person would end up getting just 1/10 of the pie. Sometimes if you draw a picture, it helps you see it a little bit better. Any questions? All right, now let's go on to problem number 3. In problem number 3, it says 5/8 cup is 1 serving. How many servings are in 1 cup? Well, you have 1 cup divided by 5/8 equals n. So here you're going to have 1/1 times 8/5. The answer is 8/5. 8/5. Now what's another name for 8/5? What will that equal as a mixed number? Yes. 1 3/5 servings. Now you all know that 5/8 of a cup is a serving. You know there's at least 1 cup and a little, or 1 serving and a little bit more, but not enough for 2. Okay? Any questions? All right. Now the next one we're going to talk about, Everyday Math taught you how to do this one with the grid method. First of all, factors are numbers that you would put together to get an answer. Let me do this one. This is method number 2 that we're going to do. You list the factors of 18 and the factors of 24. Now this is another way of doing it. 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. Then you list your factors for 24. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. What's the greatest common factor of 18 and 24? What's the largest factor they have alike in that list? Yes, they both have a 6. That's the largest one they have. Okay, well let's just do this one here next and see how we get it with the grid method. You start off, you say, what will divide an 18 and a 24? Well, let's do 6. 6 times 3 is 18, and 6 times 4 is 24. Is there anything that will divide a 3 and a 4? No. So your greatest common factor is what's over here, and all we have is a 6. Okay? Now let's do the grid method with 72 and 16. What will divide a 72 and a 16? Well, they're both even. We can start off with an even number of 2. 2 will go into 72 36 times, and 2 goes into 16, 8. What will divide a 36 and an 8? Yes, 2. 2 times 18 is 36, and 2 times 4 is 8. Oh, what will divide an 18 and a 4? 2. All right, now you might have guessed a 4 earlier, and then you would just wouldn't have quite as many numbers, but that's okay. 2 times 9 is 18, and 2 times 2 is 4. Is there anything that divides a 9 or a 2? No. So your greatest common factor in this one is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. Your greatest common factor is 8. Any questions on how we did that? All right, let's do the next one. What will divide a 48 and a 36? Yes, 12. Let's go to your numbers. 12 times 4 is 48. 12 times 3 is 36. Is there anything that will divide a 3 and a 4? No, so this one is 12. Now, maybe you would have guessed 2, and you would have gotten 2 times 2 times 3, something like that, but that one's 12. Just to show you another way that you could have gotten it, where it's a few more. 48 and 36, let's say you used 4. 4 times 12 and 4 times 9. What divides 12 and 9? 2, or 3, not 2. 3 goes into that 4 and 3, and 4 times 3 would give you a 12 that way too. Okay, and you'd end up with a 12. All right. Any questions on how to find greatest common factor, kids? Remember, factors are numbers that you put together to get an answer. They're the smaller ones. Now, the next ones we're going to do are least common multiples. And for example, let me do this one, another method here. Multiples are answers. So you list answers of your numbers until you get a match. I like to start with the largest number first. 20 times 1 is 20. Will 15 divide 20? No. 20 times 2 is 40. Can 15 divide 40? No. 20 times 3 is 60. Can 15 divide 60? Yes, it will be 60. Just to show you, 15, 30, 45, 60. Okay, that's another method, but the Everyday Math book really stressed doing the grid method. So let's do that now. You start off, let's just do this one. What will divide a 15 and a 20? Yes, 5. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. Is there anything that will divide 3 and 4? No. So on the grid method, it makes the L. Think about it. Least common multiple begins with an L. You do the L. 5 times 3 times 4 gives you the answer. 5 times 3 times 4. 5 times 3 is 15, and 15 times 4 is 60. Okay? Now let's go back and do 4 and 7. Oh, this one's a little tricky. Is there a number that will divide 4 and 7? No. So the answer is just going to be 4 times 7. It's 28. The least common multiple of 4 and 7 is 28. And if you wanted to show that, multiples of 7 and multiples of 4, 7, 14, 21, 28, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. The least common multiple is 28. Okay, let's do this one. What will divide a 16 and a 12? 2. 2 times 8 and 2 times 6. What will divide an 8 and a 6? Yes, 2. 2 times 4, 2 times 3. Now, to get our least common multiple, and nothing will divide 4 and 3, it's the L. 2 times 2 times 4 times 3. 2 times 2 is 4, times 4 is 16, times 3 will give you, well, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 12 is 48. Your least common multiple is 48. Any questions? On your test, make sure you show your work. Let's go on to the back side now. Here we go. Wanamaker turned an empty lot into a community garden with rectangular garden beds. I'm just going to draw me a little picture of this. We've got this lot and they have these rectangular garden beds. John was excited to be the first to work in the garden. He planted 2/3 of 1/2 of the garden bed on his first day. Draw a diagram to represent the problem. So he planted 2/3 of 1/2 of the garden. So I'm going to plant the garden in half, okay? And he planted 2/3 of it. So I've cut it up into thirds. So he planted 2/3 of a half. All right? Now, it says write an equation to represent the problem. Well, on this, kids, you're going to multiply. Did you hear that, Landon? Make sure you multiply. On number 6, we're going to write down 2/3 times 1/2 equals a variable. I'm going to use N. You could use any letter you want, okay? Now, what do you get for the answer? 2/6. And isn't that how many pieces we have? We have 2. And out of how many pieces are there altogether? 6. That's the answer. Now, if you simplified it, you would get 1/3. It equals 1/3. But just write down 2/6 on your test, okay, when you see a problem like that. Any questions? All right, now I'm going to put it on pause. I want you to do A, B, C, and D, and then we're going to check them. So do them. If you are watching this video, just press pause, and then we'll finish it. All right, so let's see what you have. When you divide, it's keep, change the sign, and flip, or do the reciprocal of 1/7, which I have here. That equals 35 over 1, which will be 35. Okay? Letter B. Keep, change the sign, and flip, or do the reciprocal of 5/9. So you have 1/2 times 9 over 5. And when you multiply, you will have 9/10. Circle your answer. Are there any questions? Please look at the front and follow along. Thank you. Let's do letter C. You're going to have 2/3 times that number flipped. 5/7 flipped, or its reciprocal, is 7/5. You will end up with 14 over 15. Circle your answer. Let's do letter D. In letter D, you're going to have 7/9 divided by, you have to change that to an improper fraction. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 4 will give you 18, plus 4 is 22 over 9. Question, did you have a question? Okay. Is that what you got, was 22/9? Good. I thought maybe I made a mistake, but I'm still okay. Good. Now, don't forget to keep, change, and flip, or do the reciprocal. Okay, now, if you did this, it'll be counted right. 7 times 9 is 63. And 9 times 22 is 198. If you have that, that will be correct. But some of you will simplify before you multiply because look, you see a 9 as a numerator and 9 as a denominator, and you get the answer 7/22, and that is correct too. Any questions? Do you have a question? All right, let's look at the last problem, and then when you're finished, you're to do reflex for the rest of the class period. Here we go. Spencer spent 4 hours doing chores over the weekend. If he spent 2/3 of an hour for each chore, how many chores did he do? Well, you're going to have 4 hours divided by 2/3. Okay? So let's write 4 as an improper fraction and change the sign and multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. The answer is 6 chores. He was able to do 6 chores. Any questions? All right, we'll do another one of these tomorrow. Do reflex till the end of the class and do so quietly.